This video was brought to you by the TLDR socials. Get more from TLDR by following us on Instagram and Twitter, where we post explainers that never make it to YouTube. The link's below. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a video about Canada's upcoming election. For those of you who haven't watched the video, the TLDR is basically that Trudeau has been governing with a minority government since 2019. Politically speaking, he had a relatively good pandemic. A majority of Canadians think he's done a good job handling the pandemic, so he decided to take advantage of his poll lead over Erin O'Toole's Conservatives and called a snap election. Unfortunately for Trudeau, things haven't quite gone to plan. His poll numbers have since slipped and he's now behind O'Toole, which makes another minority government the most likely outcome. The election is scheduled for the 20th of September, so Trudeau's still got some time to make up the ground, but it doesn't bode well for his hopes of a majority. So how bad are things for Trudeau? Well, when he called the election in August, Trudeau's Liberals had a steady 5-point lead over the Conservatives, and Trudeau's approval ratings were about even, while O'Toole's was sitting at about -20. Trudeau's personal approval ratings have also fared poorly. The latest Angus Reid poll from September the 6th gave Trudeau an appalling -25 approval rating, with O'Toole's ahead at -17. The only leader who came out with a positive approval rating in that poll was the NDP's Singh, who came out at +16. Trudeau has also recently slipped behind O'Toole as Canadians' preferred Prime Minister. A Nanos research poll from September the 3rd found that 31% of Canadians consider O'Toole their preferred Prime Minister, while just 27% want Trudeau. This shouldn't worry Trudeau. Previously, even when Liberals were behind the Conservatives in party polling, Trudeau came out ahead of O'Toole as Canadians' preferred Prime Minister. So what's happened? What explains the collapse of the Liberals? Well, it's down both to Trudeau's own failures and a surprisingly solid performance from O'Toole's Conservatives. Trudeau's decision to call an election early hasn't helped him. Even before Trudeau called the election, polling suggested that most Canadians didn't want it. Polling done by Nanos Research in late July found that 55% of Canadians thought it wasn't the time for an election, compared to just 37% who were in favour. Trudeau's decision now looks particularly opportunistic given that Canada is now in a Delta variant driven fourth wave, and he apparently hasn't convinced voters that it's necessary. Trudeau originally claimed that he needed a majority to build back better in really meaningful ways, but this hasn't really convinced voters for two reasons. First, his Liberal minority government were governing relatively smoothly in the first place, relying on votes from the NDP and occasionally the Conservatives. Secondly, the Liberals have been pretty light on policy since calling the election, which slightly undermined the whole spiel about building back better. Trudeau's Liberals only released their manifesto in September, whereas the Conservatives released theirs in mid-August, which featured this slightly weird photo of O'Toole on the front cover. And while there was a lot going on in the Liberal manifesto, the policies proposed would cost some $78 billion, there wasn't anything particularly revolutionary. Trudeau might also have been hurt by the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, which, even though it probably wasn't much to do with him specifically, has projected an aura of incompetence onto basically all incumbent Western governments. Trudeau has also struggled to land blows on O'Toole, who's tried to shift the Conservatives in a more centrist direction. Trudeau has tried to paint O'Toole as an anti-vaxxer, and while O'Toole prefers regular testing to Trudeau's vaccine mandates for federal workers and all travellers over 12, he's not really an anti-vaxxer. He said he wants 90% of Canadians double vaccinated, but by persuading holdouts, not compelling them. Trudeau and the Liberals have also accused O'Toole of planning to privatise the healthcare sector. Again, while there's some truth to this, insofar as O'Toole has made some comments about the benefits of private healthcare, he still supports Canada's universal healthcare system. The Liberal Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, actually got in a bit of trouble for posting a video on Twitter of an exclusive interview with O'Toole in which he seemingly expressed his support for private healthcare. Twitter labelled the clip manipulated media because it has been cut to exclude the part where O'Toole says that universal access is paramount. Liberal politicians also accused O'Toole of wanting to restrict abortion access and pushing extreme right policies. But again, while there's an element of truth to this insofar as Toole has said that he'd support so-called conscientious rights of doctors who feel uncomfortable with abortions, O'Toole himself has come out as being pro-choice and a pro-choice leader. The Conservatives have also moved to the centre when it comes to fiscal policy. They've historically been obsessed with cutting the deficit, but this year they've committed to spending billions more on pandemic recovery efforts, including $60 billion on healthcare in the next 10 years, and doubling the Canada Workers' Benefit up to a maximum of $2,800 for individuals and $5,000 for families. O'Toole hasn't completely given up on fiscal responsibility. He plans on cutting the Liberals' $30 billion childcare programme and wants to balance the budget in 10 years' time. But nonetheless, it's made harder for the Liberals to differentiate themselves from the Conservatives as the big spenders. Trudeau hasn't helped himself here. He also made the mistake of saying he doesn't really think about monetary policy.
I don't know, when I think about the biggest, most important economic policy this government, if re-elected, would move forward, you'll forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy. You'll understand that I think about family.
You get the point. Trudeau himself hasn't had a great campaign, and the Liberals have struggled to effectively attack O'Toole. They've tried to paint him as dangerously right-leaning, but if polls are anything to go by, these accusations have apparently fallen flat against O'Toole's centrist shift. So what does this mean? Well, there's still 2 weeks or so for Trudeau to recover, and the first English language debate is on Thursday, which could be a turning point. However, without a significant swing in the polls, by far and away the most likely outcome is now a minority government. Neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives look like they've got much of a chance of winning an outright majority, which would require a significant poll boost. For Canadians, this might mean another election in a couple of years' time. Canadian minority governments have historically had a 2-year half-life. Or maybe this one will actually act as a cautionary tale against opportunistic early elections. What do you think though? Will Trudeau recover before the election? Could we see a minority government in Canada? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram for more TLDR content. You can follow just the TLDR US socials, or go wild and follow whichever TLDR accounts interest you. Anyway, following and sharing our posts not only get you more from us, but it also helps us out, so thanks a lot. And of course, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we post a video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible, and if you want to see your name at the end of videos, you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that is down in the description.